All right. Well, that says I'm live, so that's exciting. Here we go. The very first and so far only real stream. Let's get started. Let's have some fun. Hello to everybody. If you are tuning into this later, you got the opportunity to catch up with the stream by following along with the live chat. Say hi to everybody. Well, wait, if you're coming back to this, you wouldn't. Never mind. This is, the whole point of this is for me just to spend some hobby time. I'm going to paint some of my own miniatures and have a bit of fun. And if you happen to be here, you can shoot in with questions in the chat. Just say hi, carry on with what you're doing, put me on in the background, and it's somebody in the room, doing some hobby while you do too, if that helps at the moment, despite it all. So who we got? We got hey, Ivan Sorensen, Mr. Nordic Weasel. You will have heard me mention his stuff a fair few times. So when I've got an opportunity, I will drop a Wargames Vault link in the description. Or if Ivan, you want to do that, I'm more than happy. There's a Simon, Organ, Clark, Michael, Tom. Hey, Tom. Brilliant. Love seeing everybody there. Cool. So I'm going to get some toys out. And I was agonizing for a while over what I wanted to do today because, a live stream, you want to have something interesting, but maybe not too revolutionary. I was concerned about not being able to finish something on stream. So what I've got is a couple of 15mm figures. Let me just grab these from off the side here. Now these, if I tilt them, it's the camera, my display is mirrored and reversed. So I'm trying to figure out the right angle to hold these guys at. These are from Ground Zero Games. They are part of the 15mm Star Grunt line. And I've really been looking forward to getting some paint on these guys. These are brilliant little miniatures. This fella, he is the Colonial Militia. And you can see in particular just the amount of detail for such a small figure. It's actually really impressive. I do hope you can't hear my neighbors carrying on. Who have we got? We've got a few more people in chat there. So, hey, Andreas, hello. Wellington, Flynn Itlow. See, now I'm going to feel bad when I can't say people's names. I think I've mentioned that before, but pronunciation, I always try and get it right. Joshua, Oswald, David, AF. These are the Ground Zero. Alan says hi. Simon Hatch, got some Ground Zero for painting? Yes. Storm of Steel, hey, bud. Martin Knives, I'm going to paint. Otherwise, I will just be repeating what the chat is saying all night. So what I want to do, I'm going to start with this fella here. He is from the New Swabian League Panzergrenadiers kit. He's just one of the riflemen. And still trying to figure out where to hold. There we go. Now, coming up with a color scheme for these guys took me a while. The idea that I have in mind for this sort of sci-fi gaming setting is that there's some high-tech arcologies or enclaves of human civilization that have all the special high-tech gear still. So what color do you paint that? Is there a uniform for that sort of look? And I thought, let's do something really not unusual, but a little bit sci-fi. James Westwood is here to pester me into painting some Infinity models. I got to admit, James, good luck with that. Infinity stuff, the miniatures are really nicely made, but they're just not my style. I don't get on with them. So it might happen. It's a very big question mark over that maybe, but a fair few people have asked about Infinity, so maybe at some point in the future. AF asks for 15mm, what size base is that? This one here, this is a 20mm base, little plastic thing from Renedra. This came out of my many, many boxes of Perry miniatures for their desert rats. So a ton of those. Some folks use washers. I know that this is quite close in size to a Euro 2-cent piece. 2 cents is a lot cheaper than paying for the plastic bases, but I like the little bit of extra size. And since these are metal figures anyway, it doesn't matter too much about the added weight at the bottom. Right, let's... Yeah, James. I wish I had better news for you, mate. I'm going to start off. This primer, this is Uniform Gray from the Army Painter, and I'm going to slap on some Barrack Nar Burgundy. Now, I have wanted a use for this color for ages because it is absolutely gorgeous. It's this deep sort of wine red, and I love it. But when do you ever have the excuse to put deep purple on something? So let's take that opportunity. If I pull that in a little, there we go. Now I'm using baking paper on my wet palette because I lost my spare sheets. My baking paper sheets are now on the wrong side of the country, in actual fact. It does make it difficult to replenish them, but luckily baking paper does the job. I'm going to put him back on his cork because it makes it easier for me to keep my thumb out of the shot. So a little bit of water in there. You don't have to go nuts with the water in these. I find the Citadel base stuff, I don't know if they've thinned it out a little more compared to when it sort of first hit the scene. All right, let me just get him into shot. And I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to paint in his sort of hard armor areas with this. And helps if I can see what I'm doing too. This pack thing, we'll call that hard armor too. You'll see this covers really quite well. I am using a brush, this old blue-handled Citadel brush. I picked this up. I was working in Games Workshop Gloucester at the time. So this would be over 15 years old. So when someone says to you that Citadel's brushes aren't very good, maybe it's a bit more pick and mix than it used to be. Let's carry on with that. I'm quite looking forward to seeing how this matches up with what I've got in mind. This would ordinarily be a little bit faster, but trying to keep everything in shot here is it's easier when I can edit. I'll tell you that. Now, do I want to paint the gun casing in purple too? We've got a conversation in the chat about base sizes. That's always that is my kryptonite, trying to decide the right base. I have agonized with these Ground Zero guys over whether to paint them on individual bases, like I've decided in the end, or if I wanted to do squad bases. But in the end, because I was planning on using them for Squad Hammer, individual basing is what I'm going to go with. I cannot figure out where is the... Put my hand. There we go. These little dealy boppers there, they'll make for pretty good... They look kind of like knee pads. Yeah. I think I've got most of that now. Let's just do a quick once round. Oh, geez, no, I've missed a huge amount on the back of his helmet there. Now, I tell you, in retrospect, what I should have done would be to paint in a little bit of skin tone into the socket in the front of his helmet there. Because now that I've got all of this lovely purple there, I'm going to have to smudge it if I want to paint skin in there. And do I? Yes, I do. Yeah, not really much of a question. Let's just quickly buzz in the side here. Keep finding... Tell you what I need to do is put a little marker down on my table so I can see exactly where things are going to show up on the screen for you guys, depending on where I put my hand. That's the sort of thing that a really clever, together, well thought out streaming sort of person would have done. Right, let's rinse my brush off. I'm going to take him out of shot just so I can get a slightly closer look. And of course, I've missed a bit. Let's just tidy up in here. Now, the bonus to using Army Painter's, what's the word? Uniform Gray for the primer is any little mistakes, I can very quickly fix those up with some Uniform Gray from the pot. It covers brilliantly. So, Andreas asks, do you want ideas for what to discuss while painting or just focus on painting? If you guys want to ask questions, specifics, go ahead. I'll try and answer questions, or if you want some story time, I can always go down that route too. Richard says, evening folks, hope you're well, Troy. I am, thank you, Richard. Storm Steel, didn't realize this was Ground Zero Games. Yeah, these are great. Does Ground Zero Games make fantasy stuff? I've not seen any. Ivan suggests try Splintered Light. I also like, now this is not 15mm, but I really like, Pendragon's got a beautiful 10mm fantasy range. I really like Pendragon's 10mm ranges in general. There's also, who am I thinking of? Is it Copplestone Castings? They do some fantastic 15mm fantasy too. Ollie, hello, Troy, from everyone at Warlord. Hey, hi, Ollie, and Warlord. No wet palette. Yeah, there's a wet palette, look. I promise. Okay, now that I've done that, let's grab that skin tone. And I'm just going to use Bugman's Glow. Something nice and quick. Because there's so little of this skin visible on these guys, I'm really not fussed about whether or not it looks any good, to be honest. So let's jam that in there. And you'll see I'm just going to cover in that face mask too, because I'm going to paint that. We'll do that a gray tone or something, sort of a rubberized color a little bit later. Yeah, I can just leave that dreadful mess that it is, but we'll leave that and it will be fine. Storm Steel, Alex also, he bases vehicles. I have to admit, I am coming around to basing vehicles for 15mm. Don't tell anybody. James Lister just got Pendragon 10mm and some Magister Militum. They do some really cool stuff. I got some of their 6mm stuff recently, but I'm honestly planning on swapping that out for, where is it from? 2D6 Wargaming. They do beautiful Germans and Soviets at the moment for World War II. I really hope they expand their range because I'd love to get some Americans from them. Okay. Can you do a close-up just to show face detail? Asks Flynn. Honestly, it wouldn't. I can get closer, but the autofocus on this, there is no autofocus. There is next to no real face detail on these guys. There is actually quite a bit on the Colonial Militia figures, but you'll see that a bit better when I paint that later. These fellas, just a splash of color is going to be plenty. Right, what to do now? I'm still undecided. Do I want to paint the gun in purple? Actually, I've got a whole bunch of people here. Why don't I ask you guys? Purple casing on the gun, or what do we think? Black? Or a darkish sort of gray? Because there's a few I can use here. Black, says Hyman. Gun glossy black. I've got a purple suggestion. Gunmetal. Now that's tempting. I am going to do some gunmetal details on it. Yeah, black sell it better. I got to admit, yeah, we'll go with black. But at this scale, I'm actually going to use, this is German gray, which is wonderful Vallejo color. It is just off black. And at this sort of scale, it's got just a little bit of color to it, which adds a little visual interest. Honestly, when there's a whole squad of these guys on the table and, you're standing 200, 300 feet away from them scale-wise, you're not going to see whether this is gray or black. Yeah, let's fill that in like that. Now comes the question, what color to do as gloves? Because now that I've done that, I've just realized I had no cunning plan for his gloves. I thought I might do them black. But now that I'm doing the weapon in black, I am all over the show with this camera, guys. I do apologize. Like I said, this is the first real live stream, so you get to see this warts and all. Just think, one day you'll be able to say, I was there, the very first full-on Sonic Sledgehammer stream. Absolute clown shoes operation it was. Meant well, though. Let's do it in his boots, too. Now, the leg detail on these guys, there's quite a lot of space where you could say that's his boots. Like, you could do boots all the way up sort of mid-leg. But I'm just going to do sort of the shoe section, and we'll make like the rest of it is armored or gear, plastic, whatever. It's the future. His gear's made out of plastic. Okay. I am missing bits everywhere. As I'm extremely fond of saying, if you guys have watched the videos, this is easier without a camera in the way. And on top of that, it's easier without a camera in the way and being live. A little bit of pressure on that one. Now I'm just going to take them off screen and get a closer look. Just fill in areas that I might have missed. Yeah, we're not looking too bad. Okay. So, yeah, black gun or off black gun, that's the right choice. Oh, I've missed a fair bit in the chat. I'm just going to scroll back a little bit. Not much. Everyone's talking about dark gray or what have you. James Lister, 10mm is my favorite scale. Otherwise, painting board game minis. That's really cool. I know a lot of folks have sort of found my channel as a result looking for board game stuff, and I'd love to do some Call of Cthulhu, like the Arkham Horror range. There are some really cool miniatures in those boxes. Ollie Oliver asks, is this your first stream? Yeah, so be gentle. Andreas prefers VMC Black Gray. Yeah, Black Gray is just a little bit lighter, I think, but much of a much. Red brown with matched boots. Thinking about the leathery sort of stuff. That's not a bad idea. Leather. David Moffat. Live streams are lots of fun to do once you get into the groove. Yeah, I got to find my groove. That's how Sledge got his groove back. That's what we're going to do. Sort of a reddish leather color for gloves. Yeah, mahogany brown. I don't mean to go quiet while I'm thinking. It's just it requires almost all of my mental faculties. So if I stop talking, it's probably because I was faced with a decision that I didn't have a ready answer for. Now, mahogany brown. This is a wonderful color from Vallejo. I'm probably going to end up using this again later on as the base for a skin tone, because it's actually a really nice warm brown, and it's pretty ideal if you're painting like South American style skin, like if you want to do something that, oh geez, oh no, that's a finger, that's where that's supposed to be, hooray. Tell you what, a camera that autofocuses would be the business here. But yeah, mahogany brown has a wonderful warmth to it, and works brilliantly as a skin tone. So, leather gloves. I think I'll leave his boots black. if he had some pouches or something on those, I would probably do those in mahogany brown too. But I want to do his belt. Yeah, we'll leave that as it is. What do we got? No scalpers reselling Arkham Horror figures. Not that I've found, although Fantasy Flight, it's kind of strange that they don't sell individual miniature packs. That would be nice to say. Storm of Steel points out my wife owns mansions, Mansions of Madness, I guess, and she won't let me paint the figures because she knows it winds me up. Yeah, this is one of the bonuses to living with another huge nerd like me, my lovely wife. She plays a lot of these games too, is she gets really precious about painting her own stuff as well. And I'm not allowed to fiddle with anything which she might want to do, which is reasonable. James Lister asks, how well do contrast and inks work on these smaller scales? Haven't really tried it yet. Honestly, in retrospect, that might have been a really good choice. I have had some really good results with contrast at smaller scales because some of the pooling that you get on flatter areas, on large figures, you don't see in 15mm. It just adds to the look. Yeah. Andreas asks, any idea how long a stream you'll do? Honestly, I was planning about an hour, but this time is just flying by, so we'll see what we come up with. Now I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to drop some Avalanche Sunset. Yeah, I think I put like 4 agitators into this thing by mistake. I'm going to do Avalanche Sunset for his goggles. Yeah. The old thumbnail palette there. And let's just fill that in. Now the bonus with working from grey is that everything covers really nicely. Just brilliant. Easy peasy. And to be honest, I probably won't need to do a huge amount more once this is shaded. Okay. Yeah. Once that's shaded, that'll look to business, I think. Excuse me. Spray prime, dry brush, block and wash. Yeah, that would be the winner. I really wanted to use this purple Baraknar Burgundy. I've had the horn for it for a while. I am going to get this German grey again though, and I think we'll paint in as part of his face mask. And yeah, I am still thinking about a camera that autofocuses. Wouldn't that just be the business? Let's get up under his mask there. Yeah, that'll do fine. So, I mean, to be quite honest, at this sort of scale, I'm not really planning on doing a huge amount more. I will just go ahead. I am going to get that yellow again and just give it one quick last blast across the goggles. And this will be the bonus of batch painting them, I guess. And we're going to let that dry for just a couple of minutes. So I'll put that aside. You can lurk over here and make me nervous. You can lurk over here. You know what? We'll stand them up. That's a better idea. Where's it got? So Storm of Steel says, with 15mm, I block, paint, and splash on the Agrax. To be honest, he's got some brilliant photographs on his Twitter account, and do go check out those videos where he shows how he does that too, because Alex's British stuff he's been painting recently is really cool. Okay. Let's... the gun comes with a small compartment for nutritionally optimized granola bars. Geez, that sounds suspiciously like Red Dwarf. So let's grab, while that fella's drying, let's grab my Colonial Infantry. Yeah. Now these fellas, this was given a primer of khaki from Vallejo. You could spray them white or brown or whatever and then put the khaki over the top, but if you can get a spray can of your primer color, why not? And like I mentioned, I'm going to get that mahogany brown and just go over his skin for this. I actually have tested some of these colors on another miniature, which is out of arm's reach at the moment. I was looking at doing some, as I say, imaginations, 20th century stuff. And I had this idea for like just off outside of Bolivia. I would have to go back and look at my notes again because I actually did some research and there were a couple of really cool points at which history might have gone differently, let's say. So I wanted to do something in that vein. Because, of course, with imaginations, you are making it up. There's no correct color scheme, which I like because who wants to be stuck doing it just one way? I cannot. Hang on. I'm just going to take this away from the camera for a sec because I can see there's a point that I can't quite reach while I've got them in front of the screen, and it bothers me. Okay. Now, I did promise I'd try and get a look at this dude's face. So once I've got a base coat on him, that'll probably be much more visible. And they are wonderful little sculpts. Ground Zero Games, these Colonial Militia, they're pretty generic and they would work for any. I mean, you could quite happily drop these guys down in modern day set gaming because their weapons don't look that futuristic. They aren't carrying any sort of heavy armor or weird equipment. I think he'd work pretty well for just a modern day trooper. So, with his skin done, I'm going to turn to his trousers. Ivan points out, Imaginations gaming is great. Yes. And you should go and check out, what is the name of it? Not Just a Brush War. I'm sure Ivan will remember the name better than me. It is a sort of an ideas pack with a bunch of random tables that you can roll up your own small nations, and it's really helpful for setting the scene if you want to do some fictional modern gaming. Storm Steel's going to go have dinner. Yeah, have a good one, dude. Thanks for coming. The more room, James Lister says, the more room for your own backstory and colors, the better. Yeah, particularly for things like Napoleonic era figures, the ability to just slap on whatever colors you like. You do one set of guys who are wearing black with yellow facings, and they represent Graf von Steinberg, and then you do the other guys who are yellow with black facings, and they represent Bürgermeister von Bergstein. You can have some fun with it. Hello, Real Iron Hand. Hey, just saw you alive. Hello. Who cares what other people think, says Just Another Captain. It's your mini, your hobby. Ooh. I care what I think. It's my problem. I am my own harshest critic, I'm sure. And I know that you're not really out to prove yourself to anybody, but I always struggle to bear it in mind that I'm just supposed to be having fun. Now, thinking of this fella's trousers, I want to get some green on them, so I'm going to use Russian uniform, World War II, another favorite color of mine. Ivan says, just to be clear, not just here to shill. I'm sure he's not. That's why I'm doing the shilling for him. Do go check these things out. Like, even if you don't buy them, I think there's a lot of value in having a bit of a peek see in what other people are making out there. You might find that you're inspired to shoot your shot, try something yourself. So a little bit of Russian uniform and just a wee bit of water in my brush, because Russian uniform is generally quite thick, I find, and there's fluff on my palette. Go away, fluff. Go. All right, just behave, fluff. That's fine. Heather points out, fun in games. Blam! Heresy detected. Yeah, no, this is all deadly serious. So Russian uniform, just straight onto his trousers. And the beautiful thing about this this khaki primer is you'll find most greens, browns, skin tones all work really well over the top of it. So let's just jam in there. You see I'm not being terribly careful. Any areas that I do mess up, that I need to come back and tidy up, I'm probably just going to skip entirely, and I'll fix them up when we come to the highlight stage, because with these 15mm figures, you can be pretty brutal with your highlights, because we're really playing for table distance here. I need to be able to see what something is from across a table, and it's smaller than my thumbnail. So your highlights can be pretty intense, and they'll often let you cover quite a few sins. All right, that looks like, I think I've got all of his trousers there. All right, let's put them aside for 2 seconds and go back to our grenadier over here. Yeah. What do I need? I need my strong tone. Right, Army Painter Strong Tone. I'm going to use this rather than Agrax Earthshade. I know the great heresy here, but I tend to find the slightly darker recesses that this gives when it's used straight from the pot works better on smaller scale figures like this. Oops. Violently assaulting all my stuff off screen here. Oh, geez, chat's running away without me. Just as the captain points out, you taught me to various colors come close to what I needed. Yeah, close enough. I know that some folks want to be really precise, but field conditions always mean that uniform isn't. The same color is going to look different to plenty of people. So just go with close enough when you're painting, I say. The undercoat color. Oh, the undercoat color for this fella. This is khaki. Excuse me. Khaki from Vallejo. And it's just a spray-on. Same as with the Citadel and the Army Painter stuff. I've never had to use another color underneath. Really good stuff. Particularly the fact that they do English uniform as a primer spray is wonderful. Wag Productions, you taught me how to paint a Napoleonic horse. I'm using your video for my 172 scale French cuirassiers. I can never... The armored fighty boys. Right. Let's get some strong tone on this dude. I'm just going to use it straight from the pot. And where is the center of the screen? There we go. Oh, yeah. That's the good stuff. And you'll see straight away, this does very quickly stain those recesses. So this is pretty ideal for what I had in mind. I'm hoping that this will hide a few of those sins, where I haven't bothered to highlight or tidy up or whatever. And yeah, the more ways that I can cut corners, the better. Let's make sure that I'm not missing his gun there. Honestly, if you can fool around with your shade in such a way that it pulls just on one side of the glasses, that's often an easy way just to cheat some highlighting on that too. All right, I think I've got everything there. I'm just going to drag him away from the camera and take a quick look. A little more on his arm there. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Yeah, man. Purple, dark purple and gray. That should work pretty well. We're going to leave that to dry again, which is always the fun part. Now I have, I've got a whole squad of these guys, primed up and ready to paint. I didn't realize quite how much time I was going to spend waffling, to be honest. David Moffat says, I don't think I've painted anything the official way since the late 90s. But the Necrons I did recently were pretty close since I was just using the paints in the set. Man, Necrons, how is there an official way to paint angry robots? But in truth, that new, what is it? I cannot pronounce it, but the new dynasty they introduced with the Necrons with that sort of rotten brown look. Oh, they're cool. I have thus far managed to resist the siren call of a Necron army, but we'll see how long that lasts. Alan points out waffling is your trademark. Yes, Alan would know. All right, this fella here, let's get onto his weapon. And of course, the bonus to having wet palette is there is my German gray straight away. Let's just paint in his weapon in black. I don't see the need to push the boat out too far here. Let's just quickly bip that in. Should I do his boots in black as well? No, I'll do his boots a nice dark brown. That'll look better. Now, I am certain what I really want is a camera that will autofocus. But we'll see how this looks on the playback. Because I am having to sort of look over my shoulder almost, the way that my computer is set up to transmit this. It's probably not the most effective streaming setup you will have ever seen. So this is all part of the reason of doing this. Like I said, a little informal. We're just here to have fun, paint some toys, and chat for a bit. I think I've got that right. So I'm just going to pull him away, get a closer look. Yeah. That works fine. Okay. Anil Pilot says, Army Painter does make some nice washes. They tend to be more gloopy than Citadel's washes. That's absolutely true. It's something I actually quite like about the Army Painter stuff. That gloopiness, if I want to replicate an Agrax Earthshade look with Army Painter Strong Tone, I have to thin this out a little bit with the mixing medium. And that's not a bad thing. It just settles slightly differently. If you use it neat and you're a little more careful about how you apply it, then you'll get, where did that fella go? You'll get it into all of the recesses, and it looks in some areas like you've almost painted in those recesses. So that's one of the reasons I do really like the neat strong tone stuff. David Moffat, Ellie's brown liquid. Yeah. I really wish that he'd come up with a better name than that. It just sounds so suspect. Having done his gun, let's go ahead and we'll paint his webbing. For that, I'm going to use pastel green. Now, this is a really light, like extremely light green. And when it goes on, it will darken down a little bit. It looks much more natural. This fella's he's just going to be World War II American style, isn't he? Ivan says, if I was restocking, is it worth doing all Army Painter? When it comes to shades, I think I might have just mentioned, everything has its use. General purpose, I will always point to Agrax Earthshade because I am nothing if not predictable. But I do really like Strong Tone and what have you. There's also a couple of really neat colors that Army Painter does, which I don't see other ranges approaching. They've got a lot of really nice purples and turquoise colors. So, yeah, what do you get? What do you need? All right, but this fella's webbing, he's got a little pouch down here on his hip. And you'll see this covers quite well. Surprisingly well for such a light color, to be honest. We'll go ahead and paint in these back straps. And there's another little pouch here. Hang on, I got to get a closer look. Okay, no, that is another pouch. I was wondering for a second, was it actually his trousers? A bit hard to see at this scale. All right. Do I want to see now? If I were more patient, I could look into this gap between the curve of his sleeve and his little bedroll here and decide, do I want to try and paint his belt? The short answer is, why would I paint his belt? Who's going to see that? So 15mm, a lot of it is cheating, at least if you ask me. Cannot quite, there we go. There we go. Okay, I think that's plenty for his webbing, you know. Okay. All right, Ivan's on his way, so thanks very much for stopping in, Ivan. You know, enjoy the rest of your evening. Folks talking still about Army Painter. Yeah, Army Painter shades, you can't really go wrong. Alien Purple from Army Painter is ace. Yes, see, Alien Purple. I've also got here, this is Grimoire Purple. I'm going to use this to highlight our purple over here, this Barrack Burgundy. I think a little bit of a gray to that purple highlight will work quite well. AF says, I'm a big fan of Can't See It, Don't Paint It. Hell yeah. With people, with all the love in the world, when people ask, how do I paint the eagles on my Space Marine's chest? Don't. Cheat. Just have him hugging his bolter to his chest and don't paint the bloody thing. What a... if you don't see it, don't paint it. That's my motto. Okay. I tell you what, a brown is going to do his boots good. So let's get, at this scale, let's get flat earth. Or do I want to, no, flat brown, sorry, not flat earth. Give that a shake. Now, I have to admit, I'm also not sure what you're all hearing. I think the sound quality on this camera is not quite as good as my, you know, what my phone would pick up. And that's what I ordinarily record on. So let's hope my dulcet tones are coming through all right. Okay, a little bit of flat brown. Let's just do in his boots. Nice and quick. Do love flat brown. If ever you're in a Games Workshop and they don't have Mornfang Brown in stock for some bizarre reason, just toddle on up the street to where you can find your friendly neighborhood Vallejo supplier and grab flat brown, and life will be fine. So let's, yeah, boots. He's at such a funny angle the way he's kneeling down here. Now you'll never see. Again, I've just said if you can't see it, don't paint it, and now I'm fussing about the back of his boots. So take what I say with a grain of salt, eh? All right, that'll do. Just fine. There we go. Boots. Now the question is, do I do his cap in a different color to his shirt? Because when I shade that, I'm going to do the shirt quite a different color. But I'm undecided. Sounds good for a webcam mic, says David Moffat. Yes, cool. That's really good to know. Sound quality is frankly excellent. Sweet. Okay. Ben says, I've started getting on the can't see, don't spend 30 minutes contorting yourself and getting paint everywhere, but where you wanted club. It is a brilliant club to be a member of. Daniel B says, I've got quite a lot of problems with the Army Painter paints, especially the yellows are extremely thin. I've honestly, as much as I do promote them and I say, hey, look, these are really good, they require a lot more work to get going than, for example, a Vallejo or a Citadel would. You do want an agitator in your Army Painter pots, and you do want to give them a really good shake. I had a nail polish shaker, which I was using to get my Army Painter stuff going. So it's, yeah, if you try them and you don't like them, then I totally grasp that. And I think there is a real value in being able to say, I just squirted it out of the pot and it worked fine. which isn't always the case with Army Painter. So, your mileage may vary. I like them, but true that they do need a bit of love. It says I couldn't get to a bit of my librarians in a cape and eventually thought sod it and put a big tuft of scenic grass in the way. Tufts are amazing. If the number of times I've hidden, like on my bolt action guys in particular, the back of legs and stuff like that. Oh goodness, tufts are just the business. Right, I'm just getting a bit more green on his trousers because I think I probably did that a little bit thin. All right, there we go. So, should we do his cap in the same color as his shirt? Feels like copping out a little bit, but I don't want to add a whole bunch of color to him just for the sake of color. In the meantime, let's do his hair. And I've got, reaching across the camera here, German camo pale brown, which is always, man, Vallejo's colors have got some interesting names. Let's squirt a little out there. I think that's the longest silence so far. Yeah, I'm just going to paint in his hair. Obviously, you could do this in black if you wanted to. And if I don't like how this looks, I might actually just go back and give it a different color anyway. But yeah, there we go. Nice and simple. And again, that khaki, just brilliant base coat. All of these earthy, natural tones will cover super well. Let's put a little bit in front of his ear there. And on the other side, where's your ear, boy? There we go. You need to trim those sideburns, mister. James Lister suggests darker green for the cap, I guess. Yeah, maybe a darker green. Or maybe even the same green as his trousers. That's actually not a bad idea. Daniel B. Yes, I used agitators, stirred them with a wooden stick. Couldn't get them to work. Yeah, what a bummer, really. Like I've had it. I have 2 pots of Vampire Red from the Army Painter, and one of them covers perfectly and the other one doesn't. And I wish, man, I could say it didn't matter which pot you got. I mean, I have gotten some really good support from them before. Like I've gotten in touch by email and said, hey, XYZ isn't working. Pretty much like Citadel, they will ordinarily just go, yep, sure, we'll cover it. We'll give you a new one. I wish it didn't come to that though, eh? Like, I'd love to be able to say, oh, they just work all the time. And I know some folks really swear by Army Painter stuff. But yeah, they are, I guess, the budget stuff for a reason, but I still like them. I do get a lot of use out of them. So I don't mean to sound like I'm being unduly negative. They do have their faults, but they tend to try and correct them. Makes me feel like doing an Imperial Fist team. Yeah, but I'm painting with my wrong hand, so not sure I'm brave enough for yellow or white armor. I am going to do, in the not too distant future, I want to do a white scar using the Mark Bedford Marine Juice, this stuff here. There was a sneaky video taken at a Forge World Weekender, where Mark Bedford went through the method that the Forge World Army Painting team uses to do their Marines. And individually, they don't look astounding, but they're Army painting, and they did look pretty cool en masse. So I want to give a shot at painting up using the Forge World method for those. Marine juice. Okay, this isn't just a bottle of gene seed. This is 1 part Nuln oil, 1 part Reichland flesh shade, 1 part medium. Lamian medium. Obviously, you can just buy a big pot and put one pot of each into it. Mark does suggest using a little bit of water, but I didn't get great results by putting any water in there, so I use it neat. And it's basically an all-over shade. Check out the Sons of Horus video here on the channel, and that's the first time I use this. Absolutely bloody game changer it is. I'm also... Why is modern military gear always so bloody drab? I mean, silly question, but let's get some US Field drab. And I'm just going to paint the last of that little bedroll on his back there. Oh, man. Tell you what, my voice is starting to give out. I have been talking for, what, 40 minutes? 50 minutes? Bloody hell. Didn't realize the stream had been going that long. Tell you, time flies. Quite enjoying this. I was really concerned, of course, because I'm sure I've mentioned I wasn't sure about being public without being able to edit myself, because sometimes there are all sorts of things that get said while I am painting, which I like to edit out for public consumption. But this has turned out to be quite fun. Love my Hydra Turquoise cloak. Ooh, Hydra Turquoise is a wonderful color. It's another army painter. Like I said, turquoise and purples are where army painter shines for me. Good evening, Troy. Hey, the eccentric man. Good evening. Alan says, I'm mighty tempted by the P3 range. Likewise, P3 and Scale 75 are two ranges that I'd really like to have a shot with, but just finding them, like I've got a local supplier, I can pick them up, but I have so many paints, so they would have to do something or be better than what I've already got. And honestly, I've got, my Citadel and my Vallejo collection does pretty much everything I need. So, okay. Let me have a think. Is there anything else to really do on this guy before I shade him? Short answer, no. All right. Let's get some fresh strong tone. And I'm going to use strong tone on this dude as well. Where did I put my strong tone? There did I put my strong tone. Give that a shake. Heather points out I used P3 Sanguine Base for my red robes. Cool. That's a pretty good recommendation, I think. I might have to try them. Scale 73 also comes very highly recommended, so maybe I'm just going to hold my nose, make the order, and give these things a shot. Right, so neat strong tone, and let's just give him the business. Now this just adds so much depth to the khaki base. I love how this works. And suddenly, I mean, in seconds, he almost looks like he's bloody painted. So this is this is how I'm going to do my Colonial Militia guys for real. Let's get around, jam that in there. And the sound effects, as always, I point out, are completely necessary. If you're not doing the sound effects, you're not going to get the same results that I am. So don't forget them. Very important. Now I'm just going to take him off camera for a second, get a close-up look, make sure that I've not missed anything. And I think we're good. Are we? Are we? He asks the people who can't see what he's doing at the moment. I think we're good. Okay, let's put him down. Rinse my brush off. Forever rinsing brushes. AF says I've been using Proacryl, however you pronounce it, I guess, paints recently, and I really like them. They're actually a brand I hadn't heard of, so I'll have to check those out. Oh, actually, where did I put? Oh, here we go. Where did I put my Instar stuff? I had a white somewhere that I've been dying to use. Right, quick shout out. Instars. There we go. Instar paints. Love these, and I am going to use their Varnish Plus in a. That's Water Plus. I'm going to use their Varnish in a minute. Really love their stuff. Excellent coverage. Just while we're talking about paint brands you might not have heard of. Daniel B says, I saw that pink for yellow. Oh, yeah, pink base coat for a yellow over at Goobertown. Looked strange, but I'm not sure it especially works because he used an airbrush. I have had some really good results putting yellow over skin tone, of all things. Bugman's Glow. This sucker here, this will cover over most colors really, really well. And if you put a yellow or an orange over the top of this does the business. I guess it is quite similar to a pink, though. So, you know, that's probably why it works. But this works with brushes. You know, you don't have to airbrush that. So if you're still having that problem, give that one a try. Monument Hobbies makes Procryl. I know that name somehow. But again, I'll have to look that one up. Right, I am now going to make a dreadful noise. I've got my hairdryer. Because I didn't realize how quickly all this time was going to pass. So I've got here my hairdryer. Look, yeah, buddy, I'm going to do this under the table. So hopefully that's whisper quiet. Eccentric Man says, I told you so. Yeah, I know. The only trouble is, with the strong tone neat from the pot, it will stay quite shiny. So I am going to have to matte varnish these in a second. And then it'll throw that violently to the deck. Then it'll be a case of waiting for the varnish to dry or hair drying that as well. So for my luscious locks, I ain't got no luscious locks. I used to have luscious locks, but my luscious locks are gone now. Jeez Louise. All right. Okay, so my Varnish Plus. Pop Burnsy says, yes, give me the noise. Yeah, love a bit of noise, me. If there were a quieter or a smarter way, I'm sure, like I said all the time, this is the first stream, so I'm sure somebody's got this sorted out smarter than I do. But I'm just going to use this as Varnish Plus straight from the pot. You don't need to mix this. And you can be pretty generous with it, but again, you don't have to be. So I am just going to apply this all over the miniature, making sure that it does get into those recesses. Otherwise, I'm going to have shiny recesses and life will not be good. Am I lifting that strong tone? Oh dear. That strong tone might not be dry, he said, continuing to make it wetter. Okay. I'll tell you what the trouble is. When you're applying a matte varnish, right, a wet matte varnish, to a figure that is glossy, it gets increasingly difficult to see where the hell you've just put wet stuff, because it's all still glossy. I think I've done that bit. Yeah, that'll have to do. That'll have to do. We'll give that a quick pass. Shiny recesses go to the doctors. Yeah, nah, not at the moment. I'm sure I'll live with these shiny recesses. Now, is this dude's... I'm just checking if this other shade is dry. It's not. Oopsie doodle. So. Oh! I'm fine. Okay. I just knocked something over off screen. Here we go. Here comes the noise again. So, apologies. Tell you what, let's give it full power. Get it over with. I'm burning my hand, but it's for the art. Oh, bloody hell. Ah! Really burning my hand. Jesus. Okay. Absolute clown shoes operation I've got going at the moment, but it is what it is. I'm just going to take a second here and have a little drink, guys, because I'm, an hour straight talking. Oh, yeah. Now this effect, okay? Anything that has to tell you on the bottle that it's high quality energy drink, I'm deeply concerned by. I don't know that I question the validity of that bold statement. Okay, for the art, burns for the burn god. Yeah, man, that hurts. But I can see now that's looking much better. There are a couple of areas where it's still a little bit wet, so I'm going to just double check, get a little bit more varnish in there. Ordinarily, I would actually use the Vallejo does a matte varnish in a spray can, and it is amazing. I've never had it frost or do anything weird like that. Knock my bottles over, and it's just perfect. So let's, that should do the job. David Moffat says, "Dang, this is quite a show." Yeah, I should be getting danger pay for this, I reckon. Slapsticks, surprisingly amusing this late at night. Oh, I tell you what, if you want to stick around and get some jokes out of me hurting myself, just be in my company for 6 hours, and I guarantee you'll see some interesting personal injuries. I am not a well-coordinated fella. Head says, "Got a dash, got a dash." Yep, take care, Heather. Thanks very much for dropping in. It's nice to see you. Daniel B asks, "Does anyone know what's the difference between Vallejo matte acrylic varnish and Vallejo matte polyurethane varnish, besides the obvious difference in used ingredients?" Polyurethane, I would guess, dries a little thicker, but that's honestly just me pulling words out of my butt at that point. I've not used it, so I can't say, but someone else might have done. This fella is still drying. I tell you what, I really should have done, one or two beforehand and then do the whole, here's one I prepared earlier. That would have been a really good idea. What I'm going to do, now that this fella's got most of his varnish dried, I'm actually going to get, why am I using a base coat? You know what, that's fine. That's probably fine. I'm going to put some Avalanche Sunset back over these goggles because I like a nice bright finish there. Ding, easy. And then let's get that Grimoire purple I was talking about earlier. Going to stick to my standard brush. It's not a merciless flex or anything. It's just as long as a brush holds its point, you don't always need to go down to a detail or a size 000 or whatever. The point is normally the most important part of what you're painting with. So some of these brushes, they're 2 or 3 sizes, what most would say are too big for what I'm doing, but they work fine. Now this Army Painter Grimoire purple, this is a lightish purple with a slight gray tint to it. So I'm interested to see how this works over corners of my Barrack Burgundy. There's my neighbors. Hello. Yeah. Now I was expecting that to be a little lighter. And I really hope that you can actually see a difference in color on the camera there. But yeah, that's pretty nice. I was hoping to find a highlight that wasn't just a straight pink or purple, because that's ordinarily been the recommendation. If I ask, what do I highlight Barrack Burgundy with? Everybody says Screamer pink or something. I don't want it to be pink. I want a grayish finish to it. And wouldn't you know it, Grimoire Purple is that right color. Yeah, man. David Moffat says, I love a fat belly and a fine tip. Good thing we're talking about paintbrushes. One set of brushes I do really like, and I don't use as often as I should, are the Redgrass brushes. That size 2 brush they've got is one of my favorites, and I barely use it because I'm worried about ruining it, which is silly, isn't it? Because now it's sitting there not doing any painting, and what's the point of it? But it is absolutely beautiful. I really enjoy using it to apply contrast, of all things, because being able to hold a fair bit of paint while still having a fine tip is an ideal quality for a brush you want to apply contrast with. I think I've just about done my dash with those purple highlights. Could be a little bit lighter, I think, but maybe that's just I've not. Oops! All right, that's too much. Yeah, that grayish purple color to that is just what I was looking for. Lion's Pride says, my paint always dries too fast. Anyone have advice for this? It will damage my brushes a ton. If you're thinning your paints ordinarily with water, you will find that if you're in a hot environment, it will evaporate quite quickly. Try using a retarder, a paint retarder. Vallejo sells one which will stop things from drying quite so quickly. You mix it in similarly to how you would mix in water, just a little bit at a time. Or you can use, now I was just talking about this earlier actually, Instar's Water Plus. It sounds like a joke until you've used it. This stuff just makes paint last forever when it's on your on your palette or on your brush. It's good stuff. I would recommend give that a try as well. Simon Hatch says Rosemary & Co. size 2 is one of my favorite brushes. Yeah, those size 2 brushes, if you can get a proper tip on one of those, they are just wonderful. I tell you what I need. I want Ungor Flesh. Now this, he said, standing up and disappearing for a second. Where is my Ungor Flesh? Ah, there it is. Okay. Oh, bloody hell. Oh, look at that. Medic. I was wondering when I was going to do that. Oh, what have I done? I'm all off. Okay, we're good. All right, and I've got my Ungor Flesh. So this is a really good yellow highlight. Let's get a look at that color. If you don't want a really light pastel sort of yellow, this is a little bit more, what's the word? A little less saturated. And it's not really a skin tone, but it works beautifully for highlighting yellow. So with my Avalanche Sunset on the goggles here, let's just get that back into shot. There we go. Let's add a little line of this. We'll paint in. There we go. Yeah, that'll do. Ungor Flesh. It's the stuff. Now I do want to highlight that that black stuff. Let's have a look. Michael Strange says unscripted for the wind. For the win. Yeah. I told you this was all going out live, eh? What have I got here? What do I want? A grey highlight. When do I want it? Ah, that's what I did. Right. I've got here Basalt Gray. Mechanicus Standard Gray or anything like that would do the job, but Basalt Gray is a lovely mid-tone gray color from Vallejo. It's got kind of a bluish finish to it, and that's going to work quite well, I think, for highlighting our black. So let's just prep my brush up, and I'll just use the side of my brush here. Yeah, I don't want to do much of this because otherwise it's going to make this look like the rest of his uniform. But let's, yeah, just a little bit of highlighting there. Oh, and on the front of his mask, we'll do that too. Okay. Inner Bag asks, what scale is this miniature? This is one of the Ground Zero Games 15mm Star Grunt figures. So he's pretty small. What else do I want to do? I want a metallic color. I want my Iron Hand Steel. Right, this stuff. Oh, you can use this for everything. I love Iron Hand Steel. I'm going to go ahead and put this on the very tip of his weapon here. Yep. Let's get in there, paint the barrel and this little underslung doodad. I don't think we need to go crazy with this. Just enough that it pops a little when it's on the table. And let's do a couple. There's these two little sort of vent things on the sides of his helmet, and I think those will help break up some of this color. Gosh, I hope that's in the right place. Yeah, put a little bit of silver on his backpack there. I think for a bog standard sci-fi trooper, that'll do fine. You know, he's little. I'm not particularly worried about, you know, individual details, but that'll do the job. Let's go ahead. I've got here my, what is it? Flat brown still. And we'll just quickly blast this on his base and get a little bit of a look at how he'll look when he's done. Like, I'm not going to bother basing these guys on the stream because that takes a bit. It's long and involved and boring. Well, it's not long, but drying time on that would be obscene. Let's go ahead and just quickly brown that in for a look at what we're going to get when he's done. And I think, yeah, if we hold him there, that's not looking too bad. I really hope that you guys can actually see the color that this is, because I'm a little worried this camera's not picking up quite the right tones, but that'll do. Chris says 15mm minis can be surprisingly fun to paint. I tell you what, I've actually got here, give me 2 seconds. I've got some of the Ravagers or Reavers or whatever they're called. Check these guys out. These are also from Ground Zero Games. And yeah, I mean, obviously I've got to clean them up and get them on their bases, but you know, there's a fair amount of detail on a figure that is about the same height as my pinky thumbnail. So that's pretty cool. Looking forward to painting these up at some point too. They're going to be for my 5 parsecs from home crew. Ground Zero Games also does a set of miniatures which are extremely reminiscent of a show you might have heard of called Firefly. If you do want teeny tiny Serenity crew, go check them out. You know, they're there as well. What else have we done? Oh yeah, I'm waiting for the other. Is this gunk dry yet? Yeah, we're looking dry. Okay, so what we'll do is get some more of my varnish, and let's just quickly pop some of this over the top of this fella here. And gosh, I hope that is dry properly, otherwise I'm going to lift off all of the strong tone and make a dreadful mess. So fingers crossed with me, folks. I think I've got it. No! Oh, I didn't push him into the paint. I thought I pushed that other fella into my wet palette, and that would have been several unkind words said on stream, but luckily not. So let's bathe this dude in some matte varnish, and then you get to hear the astounding dulcet carry on of my hairdryer again. Yep, that ought to do. CME C Dallas or CME Dallas. My last 15mm army was for DBA. It astonishes me just how old DBA is, but you still get folks popping up talking about it. I love it. I've never played it, and honestly, it looks like it's a little beyond the sort of scope I would normally play, but I love that there are so many people who are keeping these ancient games alive. I think that's really neat. Okay. So, hold your ears for a second, and we'll just give this dude a quick blast under the hairdryer, and cross my fingers and hope that he survives, that the matte varnish doesn't lift everything off. Underdog, hey, just on break at the work, thought I'd jump in. Hey, Underdog, nice to see you, bud. James Lister says Hordes of the Things is good too. I believe that's the Lord of the Rings themed DBA mod or DBA expansion, whatever you want to call it. I suppose it's not a it's not a PC game, so it's not a mod. I've still got a little bit of that varnish not quite dry in the recesses, but that's fine. We can highlight around that. As we're working, that'll dry. Now that khaki, that's looking pretty dark. That's not quite what I want, but luckily I have got here my German camo beige. This is the business. I know I'm introducing every paint as it's the business, but this really is. Let's go ahead, squirt out a wee bit of this, and I'm going to show you how I normally highlight my 15mm guys. Because I mentioned early on, you know, these are highlights that you need to be able to see from across the table. They're small scale figures, really got to make these highlights sing. So once that's prepped up on my brush, I've got too much water in my brush, of course. Let's just rinse that off and try again. Okay, much better. Right, so really good example on how much detail there is on these guys. I'm just going to paint a quick highlight across his collar, a little bit in his sleeves there. And you'll see I'm really not worried about whether or not I'm following the exact shape of the detail. I'm just trying to accentuate the shape of it. So on his sleeve here is a really good example. Let me just get that in shot properly. We're going to highlight like that and leave the khaki in the recess. So from a distance, that looks great. Yeah, well, great. Your mileage may vary. I think it looks pretty cool. But when you get up close, you know, if you take photographs of this, you'll go, ugh, that's a bit blocky. Well, it can be. And to be honest, at this sort of scale, it really works better if it is quite blocky. I think that's most of his, yeah, that's his shirt really done. So let's rinse my brush off. AF, off getting lunch for the kids. Thanks very much for stopping in, bud. All the best to the family. David Moffat points, Ivan and the Nordic Weasel Games crew really sold me on 15mm. Yes, man. I have to admit, Ivan and Nordic Weasel, they are what got me into really looking at 15mm too. So just shows one person can be a terrible influence. I'm going to get my Bugman's Glow, And we're going to go back over the skin, and this will be a highlight color. So on the back of his, let's get that in shot. There we go. On the back of his hands here, his knuckles. You see, we're really just dabbing some areas. We don't want to completely cover the skin in this. We want him to have quite dark skin. There we go. And ear tip. Now, painting faces at this scale is a mission. So I'm going to paint kind of a zigzag shape, starting at his temple, across his cheek, and then down the side of his face. And I'll do the same on the other side too. Let's get that in shot. So from his temple, zigzag shape. Frame the side of his mouth, and we can leave his cheekbones there. There's a dab in the front of his face, and he's got quite deep recesses around his nose there. A little bit on his arm. Yeah, and there is the skin painted on that fella. So these will work from table distance. What else am I going to do? Do I want to paint this gray? Talking to myself here for a second, but no, that'll be too light, I think. Might work. You know, we'll highlight the gun casing in that same Basalt Gray. All right, flip them around, do the other side. Okay, now from here, there's not really much more to do on this fella, and I can hear my other half. She is just finishing up some rice. So I am going to call it here for now. I really was only expecting to be on for about an hour and then call it from there. But for a first stream, I think that went pretty all right. You know, I want to say thank you very much to everybody for dropping in and saying hi. Really makes a difference knowing that folks are out there and are interested. You know? So thank you very much to everybody who's come and said hi. I feel really bad because there's a couple of people just popping in and I'm about to leave. So if you're just showing up, don't worry too much because I am going to make these a regular thing. What I'm going to do as well is that some weeks I'll run them at this sort of time. And then in other weeks, I will run them earlier in the day so that folks who are in different time zones have a better chance of being able to come in and say hi. You know, unfortunately, I can't plan for the entire world to be awake at the same moment. So it is a little bit, you know, someone's always going to miss out, unfortunately. But if you are just joining now, you know, and I'm on my merry way, you know, don't worry. These will be continuing at a time you'll be able to see. So, yeah, everybody saying thank you. No, thank you. Thank you to you guys. It's been quite fun. I'm a little surprised I barely got two miniatures finished, but they are testers for a couple of armies that are going to happen. So, you know, it's nice to have a chance to just play around with some colors, see if I like the look of them, and then adjust on the fly. This fella, I might try a slightly lighter purple, but that purple and gray is kind of cool. Anyhow, if you want to see more stuff like this, of course, you can comment on the video once the live stream is over. Make sure to drop a thumbs up. You know, it helps the algorithm, which, you know, that monster. But yeah, I am going to go have some dinner because I have earned it, I think, this time. And yeah, one more time, thank you very much, one and all, for dropping in. And I will see you all again in the not too distant future. We'll look at making these a weekly thing.